Well, hello again, and welcome back to the Jason and Peely Project. Super excited for today's show. And of course, if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Go down there, give us a like, give us a rating review. Doesn't have to be 5 stars. We just want to hear what you're thinking about, what we can bring to you better, make the show, bring you as much value as possible. Today, we're super excited. We have Dan Lesniak on the show. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm excited to be here today.
Good, man. Well, we're psyched to have you. And Dan's a billion-dollar real estate agent, best-selling author, investor, developer, and coach. And Dan's hyper-local strategy led to one of the fastest starts in real estate with over 22 million in sales in his first year. And since then, Dan and Keri Shull's combined team has grown to 80-plus members and sells over 300 million in volume annually. So, Dan, that's super impressive, man. When you were first starting out, did you have the grand thought process of growing this big, or as it happened you said, wow, I have this down, let's keep expanding?
Yeah, it was an accident, really. So
Yeah.
I never thought I would get into real estate, never thought I would be an agent. I did buy and sell a lot because and from an early age because I was in the Navy. So I bought my first home with a VA loan in 2003. It was a single family home in Jacksonville that I bought with no money down for like 180K, and I sold it a couple years later for 240. And at the time on a junior officer Navy salary, that was amazing. So I got an early start, in real estate, but I got into it by accident. It actually came after my career in the Navy was over. I transitioned. I was a defense contractor, got my MBA, and I thought I'll go out and I'll be a strategy consultant and work this dream job, for like McKinsey or BCG, and put in my 80 hours a week and travel every day and all that, and make like 150,000. And my timing was really bad. It was 2010, 11. And I interviewed like 55 times and just kept companies were interviewing, but not really hiring that much during that time period. For the people that remember it back then, it was coming off the heels of the Great Recession. And the number one piece of feedback I got from most of these interviewers was, we think you would be good on the technical side, but consulting involves sales and you don't seem to have the sales part down. So we recommend you go get an experience somehow in sales and come back to us. So I got my real estate license, thought I would do it as a side hustle, and it just took off so much that after a few months I had to quit my real job, and the rest is kind of history. It just expanded from there.
So you have everyone telling you can't sell, and here you are selling millions of dollars later on. So pretty funny how you make that transition. What did the Navy teach you from that background to move into real estate? What are some of the through lines?
Yeah, so definitely discipline and consistency. I think there's a tendency sometimes with real estate agents, since a lot of them aren't W-2, or most of them aren't W-2, most of them don't really have a boss per se. And even like the agents on our team, like they've got a lot of structure, but it's definitely not the same as a W-2 job. So I think a lot of them struggle with just consistently doing work. And it's this old adage or problem that humans have, or in general, of connecting actions now that are going to have little short-term consequences, but major long-term consequences. Like if I don't go out and prospect today, or reach out to some past clients, or come up with a new marketing strategy, that's not going to really change my economics tomorrow, or even in like 20 days or 30 days. But if I make that decision several days in a row, or half of the days, right, like in a year, that's going to add up to a big difference in trajectory in life. And I think real estate agents struggle, and just like human beings, like it's the same with dieting. Like eating a bag of chips isn't going to make you gain 20 pounds today, but if you do that for a year every day, it might happen. So I think in general, there's this challenge to connect decisions to long-term results when there's a lack of short-term feedback. So the Navy really instilled in me that doing your job, every day, discipline, and consistency.
Yeah, right. It's that consistency that pays off, and you're absolutely right. You just many times if you haven't seen the success of it, you can't imagine that the small steps you're taking are going to lead you to that success. So you ultimately say, well, this can't be important, right? Me sending follow-up letters or me reaching out to 10 prospects, like 3 times a week. Well, it's not getting me anything now. I'm just getting a lot of yeses, but it's ingraining that repetition in your process, and then people start to remember you, right? You have that come back to you. When you were first starting out, and what were some of the steps in your core business that you could talk to that could help other agents today who are maybe struggling trying to find their footing in this whole process?
Yes. So what happened or helped me, which I wrote about in my book, The HyperLocal Hyperfast Real Estate Agent, that the thing that made the most impact was really narrowing my focus. And it's counterintuitive, and most agents try to kind of be everything to everybody. Same with investors, probably. And uh, it's counterintuitive, but the less you focus on, the bigger, the deeper you can take it. And I focused on 189 condos in the building that I lived in. That I knew the product well. I knew the type of person who would want to live in there, and I was just able to connect with them because I had a very, very narrow focus. So I think it's that old Rockefeller saying, like, put your eggs all in one basket and watch that basket. So I would challenge real estate agents to and investors to kind of come up with a narrow strategy and focus on that and say no to everything else until you can scale and do it, or at least put like 80% of your focus on like your main thing. And if you need some extra time to scratch that curiosity kind of diversity itch, then reserve like 10 to 20% of your resources for that. But you gotta put most of your core focus into a small area.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree, right? And I can hear the talk track from people listening, right? Well, I'm going to miss out on opportunities, but what happens there is you never actually get to find out what you want. So you're actually limiting the opportunities that come across to you because you're looking at everything and you're really not mastering your process at all. What really helped us is that we were doing various types of real estate investing, and it was all going fine, but we weren't crushing it past the middle until we said, listen, we're going to go all in with large multifamily. And we really honed it on that model and then got really selective in even the product there, right? We don't focus on multifamily all across the country. We pick select markets and we really dive in, but it allows us to be ahead of the thing. And although, there's only going to be as many opportunities there, we're going to quickly be able to figure out what are good opportunities for us instead of saying, hey, let's look at all these opportunities. And by the time we can identify what's actually good, we've missed a boat or we've missed the opportunity, or we actually don't even know how to identify what's good. So your business, as you,
I mean, you don't probably hear of real estate investors that crush it in multifamily, crush it in flips, crush it in wholesaling, crush it in private lending, and do it in multiple markets. Like I don't hear those kind of stories. And, maybe until you get really massive and can hire and scale, but
I think it's the really the meetups and the RIAs that really hurt that concept, because people go there and they're trying to learn about real estate, and every month they get something new, right? And so they never can get fully developed into something because okay, this month's tax liens, next month's flipping, next month's Airbnb, next one's multifamily, next one's wholesaling, and by this time they're always trying to they're juggling the bag into the next one, and they never really dive in. And you're right, you have to dive in at a point, and at least you'll figure out quickly whether or not you like it too. Sometimes we spend so much time in the learning phase. By the time we actually get to the doing part, we realize very quickly just some of the steps of doing. I relate this to flipping, right? You'll spend 2 years like learning how to flip a house, right? Never flip a house, and then you'll say, okay, I'm ready to go. I've learned everything I can on this, and you start flipping, and you realize you hate working with contractors. Right. Where if you could have learned that a lot earlier in the process and said, man, I just spent 2 years wasting my time. Right. So you do this now with your agent business. You've grown to have so many different people as part of your team. What's been one of the biggest learning lessons growing a productive team?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons in going from like a small team to a large team is you need to consistently upgrade your talent, right? Like you can't scale without great people systems and culture, right? So you got to have great people to build great systems, and long term you keep them with culture. And I think there's a couple common mistakes. I'll just cover some of them that people make. One, they keep people too long. So sometimes you make a bad hire and right away that even though we thought this person was great, or we overlooked this flaw because of A, B, C, D, they're just not going to work out. But people try to prolong it, and I think it goes back to the loss aversion, right? So people have an aversion to loss. They've actually proven this mathematically with investments. Like, people will take more risk to avoid a loss than the risk they'll take to press a gain, because nobody likes to say they had a loss. And it's the same with hiring someone. Even after you recognized that you hired them, you put in time and effort, and, or your team effort, and your ego kind of gets in the way, and you think that they're just going to magically change, and it almost never happens. Like, if once you think someone won't work out, it's like 99.99% chance that it's right. But so I think too many people hang on to people in those situations, and then I think sometimes people hang on to people too long as they grow. So if you're running a team of like 5 or 10, there might be someone who's great at that level, but when the team gets to 40, 50, that person's kind of stayed at a loyalty, and they may have been great for 10, but not at 50. And those, I think, are some of some dangerous people, because out of loyalty and just familiarity, they've been around. It's easy to let those kind of people stay. And I think that's I see that mistake a lot. And, we made that one. Like, each of these mistakes, by the way, are things that we have done and learned. So if you're listening to this, know that this is coming from a place of, like, we have messed this up. So hopefully you are less likely to make this same mistake in the future. And then the final kind of thing with building a team is hire sooner. I see too many agents have some success and get to the 6-figure, or even like 2 to 3, levels of 6-figure, like 250K of net income, and they just stay there. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but I think a lot of them stay there because they're afraid to go out and hire someone on a 40, 50K salary to do the admin work. A lot of times you'll see these 2 to 300 level kind of net income producers. You'll see them go out and hire a buyer's agent, and now you're doing the admin work for yourself and that buyer's agent, instead of making your first hire a fixed salary position. So those are like the kind of the 3 things I would focus on not doing.
It's really good you said that, right? Because sometimes we focus not on we don't want to pay out, right? Because we think we'll save the money in the deep end, but then we're doing all this busy work that's really work that's underneath the dollar amount of the money you're actually producing that brings in all your money, right? So you're putting your contracts in, you're doing all the busy work and all the follow-up work there, where you can have an admin come in, you can really scale. And when you are making that first hire, what are some things you're looking at in terms of bringing on that admin person? What's a highly effective agent, or some of the key resources they need in having that first hire?
Yeah, before I get to that real quick, just one quick thing. This kind of connects back to what I said earlier on that agents and human beings in general have a problem connecting long-term results, right? Long-term things with short-term decisions that don't have immediate feedback. And when you make this first hire, or really any hire, this person's going to make you less profitable in the next couple of weeks or month, usually, because you have to put into it. You've got to put training, time, and money into it. And it might take 3 months for them to increase your efficiency, productivity, and profit. It might take longer. You might screw it up and have to start over with someone else, right? But this is just another example of if you were to make your decision based on that, you're prioritizing short-term results over long-term results. So that's why I think a lot of people don't do it. And
you could probably talk to businesses too like that, because lots of times businesses will fail because they've had a short-term perspective, right? And they won't think about the future of where their business is going, because they're hiring based on what's happening with, or they're doing things that are basically what they need now, right? And so you think about that even in, you could think of real estate businesses, you could think of restaurants, all kinds of different businesses, right? So it's funny you say that. When I put it in my mind, I say, yeah, that's just a lot of things. People forget to look at that big case scenario, maybe because when they first started out, this was a hobby or something else, and now they jump into it and start realizing that they're having success, but they're still into that short-term thought process growing forward.
yeah, no, and then the other mistake people will make with it, and then I'll answer the question for real. But
Sure.
the other mistake people make is they wait too long and then they make the hire. So now they're like really, really busy and they need someone urgently. So they lower their standards to get someone in there quicker, and they're busy, so they don't have the time to properly train them. And when you could probably suffer one of those and still be okay. But when you hire someone who's underqualified and you then undertrain them or don't give them that initial time up front, it's not going to work out. And then a lot of times they say, well, I tried that, it doesn't work, and they don't do it again. So you got to realize that if you wait too late, you're going to be more likely to mess it up, and don't use it as an excuse to not go do it. The person you should hire first should either be an admin or an inside sales agent, someone to get on the phone and book you more leads, book you more appointments, make more calls. And then your second hire should be, whichever one you didn't hire the first time. Then you go out and get the buyer's agent. But in that admin role, you are going to want to find someone who's detail oriented, process oriented, someone that values stability and someone that values security. You're providing that in the form of a steady paycheck and some systems that you'll be building with that person. So I think in your interview, you want to ask them questions, or even just how they send you your resume. Like, don't just post up an ad and tell them to send your resume. Tell them to put a cover letter and address these 2 or 3 things in the cover letter. Sometimes we actually tell them to put their favorite color or band in the subject line, just to see, if they actually follow instructions. You want someone who's process oriented, detail oriented, in an admin role. If you're hiring for that inside sales agent, you're going to want similar to an agent. You're going to want someone that's financially driven. Right? Because if they're booking appointments for you, you should structure it that they get a percentage of the appointments that they book for you. So you're going to want to make sure they're financially driven.
So really, for that point, when you're talking about that higher process oriented is perfect, right? Because you want to know that the process you're going to be putting together in your business is going to be able to be carried out even before you're getting into it. So it's not a learning on the fly. And now as you're growing your business, you've implemented these steps, as you've moved forward where your growth trajectory has continued to go. We go on these points where we have these increases in these and plateaus, increases in plateaus. We're constantly reassessing. As you've grown now at this stage, what are you doing going forward? What are the small steps you're taking today to continue to grow your business at this maximum level?
Yeah, well, we're always feeding our core business, which is the real estate brokerage and sales team. So a lot of what we focus on is recruiting agents, recruiting people for that team, training them, and then generating buyer and seller leads. But then we're also looking at how do we add different adjacent businesses to it. Like we've added a title joint venture, a mortgage joint venture. We did that kind of stuff early on. Now we've brought in a coaching platform through Hyperfast Agent. We've brought in development. So we've got over 100 condos. Most of them are like 10-unit projects, but over 100 doors total coming in the next 18 months that are, basically big flips for us. So, it's just all about continuing to upgrade the people around you that are either you're hiring or that you're partnering with.
Yeah, see, that's great because you actually pull it full circle here, right? You really started in your space and you really just crushed your space. And at that point, then you grew and brought the team around you that could support you so you can go into other points. And now you've expanded out to bring in all these other points between title and mortgage and development and really in your coaching business to really allow you to grow out the platform. And it's just the exact model you just talked about earlier, right? So you didn't start with all these points and say, okay, I'm going to try and do development. I'm going to try and coach. I'm going to try and, have a title company that we're joint venture and mortgage. And then we'll do this agent thing as well. We'll see how it works, where ultimately people try and start that way and they're just mastering nothing. So, Dan, this has been great. If you had three key takeaways to success that you see across your team and your success that you could really share with the listeners, what would they be?
Yeah, I think one thing is to do hard things, right? Even if it's not in business. So a lot of times people ask me, like, why do you train for Ironman races, ultra marathons? And, I think one of the reasons is life today is easier than it's ever been. Even with this global pandemic going on, there's not like a human being, I think, in the world that would choose to come live in a different time period or different country, I think, if you're, in the United States. And it's just so the drawback to all that, of how awesome and amazing a time period that this is to live in, is that it is almost too easy and people get lazy and complacent. So I think doing challenging things, even if it's not in business or not related, is one thing that I would focus on. So like, go do something that challenges you, and see how that helps you in all areas of life. I think the second thing is to think long term, right? Think about the compound effect. Like, know that potato chip bag is not going to kill you today, or sitting on the couch is not going to kill you, or watching Netflix instead of doing work is not going to like destroy your business overnight. But if you compound those decisions, it'll have a extremely negative effect. And I think the third thing is know that failure is good. Like, if you fail at your first hire, that's a good thing, because you learn something for the second round, or the second time you do it. So like, if you're not failing, that probably means you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I love that. So do hard things, think of the long term, and just the compound effect of your actions, and failure is good as long as you're taking the feedback from it to really move forward. Dan, that's been awesome, man. Hey, so for everyone who's listening, what's the best way to find out more about you, to connect, learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, if you want to learn about what we're doing to coach and help real estate agents, you can go to hyperfastagent.com. And if you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on all of them: LinkedIn and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm even on TikTok a lot now. My handle is my name, Dan Lesniak. And so you can connect with me there and learn about my team if you're an agent in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, or learn about our the different projects we're doing. If you want to learn how to partner with us on some of those or invest in those, just connect with me on social media.
Dan, super grateful for you coming on the show today. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And it's just another amazing day doing Zooms and home podcasts. It was pretty cool, actually.
That's right. It's a great life, man. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to all listening. Talk to you shortly.
Join us for your second cup of coffee every Monday through Friday at noon.
Live every day, bringing us our best content we've done so far. Super excited, super engaging, bunch of great guests. We're here to answer your questions, and we so appreciate you listening. Make sure to check us out.
Can't wait to see you.